Welcome to Berlin, Germany, where we're at the LSC studio for the Amazon European Masters knockout stage. 16 started, now only 8 remain, and for the first time ever in UM history, all quarterfinals will be a best of 5. My name's Koolein, and I'm joined here by Trouble and Ox as we are getting ready for our first quarterfinal of the Amazon European Masters. How excited are we for this, Trouble?
Oh, I cannot wait for the NLC Get Ws in the chat. I cannot wait to see our home region team hopefully play well today. And of course, going against the Super League is going to be extra hype.
I mean, it's all about hope today, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, as well, we have best of 5s now in the quarterfinals, so a lot more opportunity for the NLC to get 3-0'd instead of 2-0'd. But we'll see about that later.
I mean, they can get 2-0 because it is a best of 5. Before we got here, let's have a look at what happened at the groups, because the groups that have been played 8 single days have been played out through the Amazon European Masters, and today we only have 8 teams left, Trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can see, there's a pattern, Spanish teams everywhere. First seeds, second seeds. But I want you to pay attention to the second seeds coming into the groups from the Spanish teams, because the LFL is what knocked them down 1 seed. And Corp, Misfits coming in absolutely hot. Obviously, we've got Movistar, we've got Vodafone Giants, and also I blanked out, Movistar, who are playing today, coming in extremely crazy dangerous.
Is there a region, Ox, that maybe didn't hit the ball right?
I feel like you can kind of say that for both the Prime League and the Ultraliga. Obviously, the Prime League had 3 seeds going, only Big remains, who do look like they have potential to go far in the tournament, but it's similar for the Ultraliga. These are both regions who have won before. They only have 1 team left, and as much as definitely for the Prime League, that's a strong contender, it's still a lot rougher when you don't have 3 teams compared to, the Superliga.
And I think the problem here lies because we also had a Go Rogue win it all. This split last year, a Go Rogue was literally breezing through the entirety of EU Masters. Yeah. And it's sort of like, I know that King sounds a little bit, because it's overused, but it seems like the Ultraliga are the long gone fallen kings.
Yeah, and I mean, as well, it's like a Go Rogue. You looked at them in the regular season, they looked on fire. And you actually look at the fact that it's PDW and Illumina who took 1st and 2nd seed. They were 5th and 6th in their playoffs, right? Watching the season, you wouldn't have expected those to be the front runners, but PDW have really been on fire. Still an uphill battle, but it's just interesting to see how these teams are coming on top, and we're not seeing this familiar face of a Go Rogue getting this far in the tournament.
I mean, there might be a link between Ultraliga not really performing well and LFL suddenly performing well, but I'll leave that in the middle as we go a look at what we are going to see in the upcoming days, because we have 4 quarterfinals at best of 5 once again, and we see, I would say, 3 heavy favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had an interview with Big's coach as well. And he's like, the way I see the tournament, someone is going to get double trophied this season. And they're right. Big, Misfits, and Corp, of course, the 2021 Spring Champions, are all coming in hot to take it all the way. I'm going to stick a little bit on Big because they're coming from the Prime League. And due to the format, they didn't have the best regular season, but once they hit these playoffs, they literally run everyone over, and they do look like a big contender to take it all. And if you look over at the LFL, you're like, everyone knows Corp, the blue wall. Well, the blue wall fell pretty convincingly because Misfits for me absolutely destroyed them in the finals.
I mean, it's been a trend. Perform well in regular season and then fall in playoffs. I mean, we've seen LEC, but we also see it happening in the ERLs.
Yeah, I think there's a range of teams who, when you looked at them domestically, you expected them to come in really strong. Corp at the start of the season looked like they were going to be just repeating spring. We also saw that with Movistar Riders, who are really on fire, but things change when you get to EU Masters. You see the meta shift up, and we're seeing different teams on top.
I mean, rosters change as well. Like, there's like someone missing from Corp who's doing pretty well, going to Worlds ahead.
Yeah, I heard something about that, yeah.
It's Adam, by the way, for people who don't know. Looking at this Big, they're the sole representative of the Prime League. They have a hard thing to do, I would say, as they must go through the last representative of the Ultraliga.
Yeah, we're going to lose 1 region. It's obviously a matchup that we're going to see, a best of 5 that we're going to see further into the week, but Big, the last representatives of the Prime League, the DACH region versus PDW, the last representatives of the Ultraliga. Don't worry if you're an Ultraliga fan and you lose PDW, you still have Misfits Premier, so no worries there.
And we've heard Lord talking about this region all the time. I mean, I get it. It is our own region. The LFL, they look so strong, Ox.
Yeah, I mean, I think they really look on fire. I think it's a little bit different to what we saw in spring because Corp, I don't think they look as good as they did in spring. They were completely on top there. Misfits Premier obviously came in as their 1st seed, but it's still really formidable. We saw that in groups, top in both the groups. I do think the Superliga has some teams that contest. One of the interesting matchups we're going to have is UCAM against K-Corp, which was actually the closest I feel like K-Corp came to losing in spring. That rematch could be spicy.
But that Misfits premiere, that is the one that might be one of the biggest favorites in the LFL.
Yeah, because again, we're getting a little bit repetitive here. In the finals, it seemed like, I don't necessarily think that Corp was missing the spice. I think they're coming in with the exact same drive, the exact same fire. The roster stayed the same, except the top lane. I just think that Misfits Premier came that much more prepared on what they were going to face.
And it would be something for Woolite. I see that amazing Aphelios play from him back in the group stage, I would say. It would be a nice thing for him to regain himself. I mean, he's dropped out of the European LCS, now has won European Master once with AGO Rogue last year, and now he could repeat that again and get a second title behind his name.
I mean, I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people think of Woolite and they think of the reputation he had in the European LCS. There's a lot of criticism levied towards it.
He's had his chance.
But for me, I feel like if you keep getting hung up on that, you're not going to see what he's doing now. He's obviously gone down to the ERL level, but he's been performing consistently. Every EU Masters, it feels like he's such a massive threat. And I feel like if you disrespect him, then you will lose to Misfits Premier.
Then, looking at K-Corp, the blue wall, they have fans everywhere, if I may believe Twitter, but looking at this team, it would be a first to have a back-to-back win in European Masters, but have 2 titles? I don't think there's any other team that has done that so far.
So there's this sort of, it goes back, it's a custom, right? The LFL wins spring every single time. They're the spring kings every season almost.
That's true.
And then summer comes and someone else always takes it away from them. So they're holding on to the trophy just to pass it on to the new champion in summer. And Corp coming in here, they're coming again with the exact same roster except that top lane that's changed. And for me, all eyes on Seiken because I felt like he was such a key link in the last season. You want him to play the Akali, he knows exactly his flanks. You want him to play his Ryze, he knows exactly how to zone. I feel like you give him a role, you give him a champion, he knows how to execute textbook.
And honestly, I feel like a lot of the group stage performances, it was Seiken difference. And that's obviously a positive for him, but K-Corp, it felt like so many games would fall behind. They'd have to bring out some magic. You'd see Seiken step up massively in those later team fights, but it didn't feel super convincing like we saw in spring. There are games where I was like, how are they going to come back in this? And they managed to a lot of the time, but it was still kind of, they don't have that same air where we felt like they were invincible in spring.
How do we feel, though, about the change-up in top lane? I mean, we've seen Adam move to Fnatic, now Kabashar coming back into the RL. I mean, he's shown some big things on the Lee Sin, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's a top diff necessarily. Again, I felt like teams are coming in, reading Corp and the way they were playing from spring. I don't think their play has changed necessarily. It's just that much easier now that you're coming into the second season, having to face Corp and knowing exactly how they play. Of course, having a veteran like Kabashar with the calls, with so much experience behind him in the top lane, with a lot more champions to show as well, you're only earning things, you're not losing too much.
So we've mentioned a Premier League team, we've mentioned 2 LFL teams. Why aren't we talking about the LVP? They have 3 teams in the quarterfinals. Why is no one talking about them?
You or me, Dan?
I mean,
who's bringing the bad news?
You bring the bad news. I've got the good news.
All right, I'll bring the bad news. We're always having up the LVP, all the Spanish teams. UCAM made it to the semi-finals literally in spring, and they were so close to taking down Corp, who won it all. And then there was the situation of, had that been a best of 5, maybe UCAM would have been able to pull through. We'll never know because it was a best of 3. But they always fumble on the last hurdle every single time. It's been so long since a Spanish team has won it all.
But could it be different this year?
I think they have 3 good teams, and that's the thing. Having 3 teams at this stage doesn't necessarily mean one of them is going to be a winner, right? It's better to have 1 amazing team than 3 good teams. But I think all 3 look really formidable. I think they all have different strengths. I think UCAM actually look like they're going to potentially be a good contest for K-Corp. They might get revenge from spring. Vodafone Giants obviously won the Superliga in its entirety. And Movistar, I feel like, well, we'll get a lot of chance to talk about them, but I feel like if they hit the sort of level they were at in the regular season of the Superliga, they should win everything.
We'll have to see, because we're getting ourselves ready for that first quarterfinal. As we move into that pre-match analysis, what we usually do is where we look into our 2 teams, we are going to look at what we have to do here, and that is Movistar Riders against Fnatic Rising. Ox, Fnatic Rising is the last hope for LC. They're the only ones who made it through, with Trick being eliminated in the group stage. But they also have maybe a bit of a taste of what it's like to play in the LVP.
Yeah, well, obviously this is their last chance to represent the NLC, and they've been our strongest performer historically. I think recently in the past year, haven't seen quite the same results, but they've gotten top 4 finishes multiple times, and with them leaving, we're hoping sort of they get that one last run to sort of do us proud.
I think one of the key things about Fnatic Ryze is how in spring 2021, they tried to go through play-ins. They had Febiven in the mid lane, who's one of the biggest veterans in the scene in Europe and overseas, and they didn't make it through play-ins. They fumble on the last step. Dajor is stepping in halfway through the season in the NOC, and suddenly you see this new flair. It feels like Maxi sort of got enabled with that happening. And I think I have to give it to that mid lane because Dajor managed to not only help Fnatic get through the play-ins, but also through the groups, which hasn't happened in a long time.
I mean, it is interesting you started with there because it is a rematch from play-in stage. I mean, these two teams have found each other 3 times as they played each other in a double round robin, but also played a tiebreaker. But what I did notice when looking at this team, they have sort of a similar play style with the mid lane and the jungle.
They have a similar playstyle, but I have to give it all to the mid lane champion pools because I feel like they are extremely different. If we see XKenzuke on one side from Movistar, you see the likes of Twisted Fate, the LeBlanc, the Syndra, and these are sort of picks. Oh, wow. Thank you, production. These are sort of picks that will actually take control of the map. You see Twisted Fate, he wants to roam to the side lane. You see LeBlanc, she wants to roam together with the jungler and wreak havoc in the river. And you see the same story with the Ryze. Push, go to a side lane. Now, if you look over at Dajor's champion pool, he's bringing in the spice that complements Maxi. He's bringing in picks such as the Set, the Renekton, and of course, Ryze, which is the flavor of the month, everyone. But I really just like how he brings these bruises in the mid lane, which means that he's not that easy to die, and he also complements a lot of the spicy AP picks that Maxi brings to the table.
And I think you have to talk about what they're doing for their team, because obviously the Ryze is a hotly contested one. They've both played multiple times. It's about achieving that priority in lane and being able to assist your jungler, translate that pressure, and particularly look for dives in the side lane. And across all of these picks, whether it's the bruisers, whether it's things like the TF, the LeBlanc, they are all very good at aligning with your jungler, giving them pressure on the map so they can get ahead, and then leaning that into the side lanes. And I think that's how both these teams look to get ahead. I think Movistar are a bit cleaner with that, but if we see Fnatic shut down that mid lane, stop XKenzuke from being able to roam, that is definitely a win condition here.
Yeah, Maxlore and MAXI, those are, I would say, key elements in those teams. And we need to see them being enabled from the mid lane because that's where it's going to happen. So I kind of do wonder, though, will you be able to play something as a Ryze in this matchup where both players seem to find pretty much comfort in the champion?
I feel like Maxi is very reliant on his lanes to get enabled. I somehow feel every time I watch Maxlore play, he takes fate into his own hands. You will see him make the plays, especially on that Lee Sin. He's all over the map. He's finding the kicks, he's finding the opportunities, he's finding the ganks. Whilst Maxi needs that priority from his lane, needs someone to roam in with him, and then he completely wreaks havoc on the map once he gets that one-step advantage.
I mean, there's a reason he got MVP in the LVP regular split.
Yeah, and I mean, he was playing so well. The whole roster, I really thought Movistar was going to be a front runner looking at their regular season play in the Superliga. They haven't hit quite the same stride. Giants very effectively shut down Maxlore in their playoffs. And actually, if you look at the games between Fnatic and Movistar Riders in the play-ins, the one Fnatic won, mid lane got shut down, XKenzuke couldn't move, and then what we saw was Maxlore kept trying to go for those plays, but without the backup of his mid laner, you could actually punish him, right? He actually started to see some of them backfire, and that's how Fnatic found a bit of a footing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I think, a year and a half ago when Maxlore was playing in an NLC team, and I had the pleasure to have an interview with him. He said, it doesn't matter if you're the best jungler in DRLs. I don't want to be the best jungler in DRLs. I don't want to be the best jungler in Europe. I will always strive to be the best jungler in the world, the best iteration of myself. And I feel like during that year and a half, I have seen him evolve so much. And again, I'm really liking that we're getting this graph right here because it shows exactly how the mid laners complement what each and every of these players bring to the table. You see the Viego and the Lee Sin from the side of Maxlore. It's about that punching. It's about playing punches in the river, playing into that 2v2 aggressively in the skirmishes. And you see on the other hand, with Maxi, he's also bringing in the AP, the Needles. We've seen the Dianas coming out in the NOC as well, which pair up really well with all these AD picks that Dajor brings into the table.
What I think is kind of hilarious as well is that Maxlore's only played 2 champions, And that's because he just keeps getting Viego. Like I think
mean,
he's
you'll
played
take
like
that.
yeah, you'll absolutely take that. But it's like he's played like 6 Viego games, and it just keeps getting left open. He keeps picking it. So that's my little prediction going in the series. They probably won't let him get that pick.
You don't think so? I mean, it's a wide variety. It shows exactly what's happening in jungle right now. It's just pick Viego or don't pick Viego. As we are heading into our first game, let's have a look at the format once again to understand where these teams came from, because both teams made it through play-ins, and I would say Movistar actually has the longest route because they had a tiebreaker in play-ins, they had a tiebreaker in the groups, and now they have a best-of-5 in front of them against Fnatic Rising. So let's have a look at that format once again as we are heading into the first game of the day for the quarterfinal, as we see what Movistar
Hey
Rising will
everyone,
do
and welcome
against
to the
Fnatic Rising.
European Masters, the tournament that pits the very best ERL teams against one another. 13 regions will compete, so join the hype and be the first to discover Europe's hottest new talent. Let's get right into it. E-Masters begins with the play-in group stage, where regions will have at least one team represented with a total of 16 teams divided into 4 groups. Each team will play against other teams in their group twice in a best-of-1. The top 2 seeds from each group will move into the play-in knockout stage. Here, the 8 teams will play in a best-of-3 against one other team, with the winners qualifying for the group stages, where 12 teams have already pre-qualified. The group stage is where teams will compete in a double round robin, with the top 2 teams advancing to the knockout stage. The top seeds will play against the second-seeded teams from other groups in a best-of-5, with the winners moving on to the semi-finals. Here, the final 4 teams will play a best-of-5 and fight for their spots in the finals, where there will be one more best-of-5 to determine the European Masters champion. Who will take the crown and become the next European superstar? I, for one, can't wait, so mark your calendars. It's going to be a fun one. See you there.
And as you may have noticed, for the first time ever in EM history, once again, we have best-of-5 in quarterfinals. Last time in semis, we heard it from UCAM. Maybe if it was a best-of-5, we could have taken down.
They'll have the chance later on in the week.
Absolutely.
prove it.
It's going to be a rematch. I mean, because looking at what we have in front of us, these all look like banger series, especially the one on Sunday. I'm looking forward to that one. Misfits Premier against Vodafone Giants. That's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a good one because it's, again, Spanish team versus French team. And then we see Kamenkov versus UCAM. I think my eyes go straight there because I cannot wait. UCAM wanted their chance. They almost took it in the semi-finals in spring. They almost knocked out the champions, the current champions, Kamenkov. Now they're having the chance once again. Best-of-5. You don't just have 3 chances. You've got 5, UCAM. What have you got?
I think big against PDW, both of them the last representative for their region, so a lot on the line. And I just feel like, you know, normally when we get to the stage, the quarterfinals, we see so many stacked rosters. The fact we're going to get full best-of-5s out of them, we're going to see so much more.
As we are minutes away from our first pick and ban, I do have to ask the question, what do we expect from the best-of-5 that is coming up? I'm going to ask you for your predictions, starting with you, Trouble.
Okay, I have 2 predictions. One's from my head, one's from my heart. My head says 3-1 Movistar Riders. But my heart says 3-2 NLC Fnatic Rising. I'm going to go with my heart because I never follow my head. There you go.
What do you think?
Fnatic Rising.
Are we going the distance? Are we going for the full 5 games, or is it going to be a quick one?
3-1 Movistar Riders. I think Fnatic can take a game. I don't know if they're going to be able to take more. And before you call me a traitor, Fnatic are leaving the NLC. So, you know, and my loyalty's got only a limited amount of time left.
Who is the traitor here? Is it Fnatic Rising or is it...
It's Ox, clearly,
okay,
because they're still in the
definitely Ox.
NLC.
It's time to find out who will be the first one to be knocked out. NLC's last hope, Fnatic Rising, or Movistar Riders? To bring you all the action on the Rift, here's Penguin and Jamada.
Thank you so much to Colin, to Trouble, and to Ox. I am Penguin. This beautiful man to my left or your right, depending on how you're looking at the screen, is Jamada. We'll be bringing you the cast today for the first series of these best-of-5s in the quarterfinals for the Amazon EU Masters 2021 summer. Jamada, coming into this, obviously we've had a lot from the analyst desk. They talked about different things. Rather than what are you expecting, what are you not expecting? What do you think will be the X factor here for both of these teams?
Ooh, X factor. I mean... That's kind of tough to call because I think stylistically these teams, like highlighted on the analyst desk, have a relatively similar style, right? Mid jungle into bot, both AD carries here, Bean and Venzer, you know, in terms of stats, through the roof. It's kind of crazy there, like damage per minute, damage percentage for their team. In terms of X factor though, maybe it will be to the top side for Movistar because they like to weak side Marky a lot. And if we see picks like the Kennen actually go through and he picks that up, I think we've seen enough Kennen ultimates this tournament alone to kind of understand how powerful that champion can be. So whilst I think there's a lot of focus on the mid jungle and the bottom side of the map, I actually think the top side matchup could have a fair amount of sway depending on what champions Marky and Pride end up on.
And that's something you mentioned to me earlier. We were obviously discussing the matchup before we came to ourselves. And you think that Kennen is going to be so impactful towards this draft, something that maybe we haven't seen as much up until maybe this moment.
Yeah, I think so. I just feel that as we've gone further and further into the tournament, the priority on the champion's risen. And I think for good reasons too, right? It's a champion that doesn't really have too many horrible matchups. It can lane into most of the meta champions. And of course, the amount of impact that one single Orma can have, it's genuinely very game-changing. And you don't have to put a lot of resources into it, and that's the key thing. A Kennen doesn't have to be fed to one-shot the enemy team as long as it's, you know, half healthing plus CC. The follow-up in a lot of these compositions from the meta at the moment are just about enough almost to always get the team over the finish line as long as that Kennen can connect.
Yeah, and we saw in the analyst test, they mentioned obviously the jungle pools, they mentioned the mid lane roamers, but something they didn't, you know, we didn't really get to talk about really was the bot lane and how important the Thresh and even the Aphelios to an extent as well has been for a lot of these guys. Getting that strong 2v2 is huge for both of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, in particular, from, I suppose, a more biased standpoint for Fnatic, right? They typically love to put Bean on these very hyper-scaling AD carries, right? So giving him those resources or giving him a safer bottom side matchup to actually farm up to get to that hyper-scaling point is very, very crucial. And for Movistar, again, you know, varying styles. Sometimes they'll put Venzer on things like the Caitlyn or the Varus, which are a little more lane-dominated, but they'll still put the resources into him. And other times he will be on, you know, the more scaling champions like that Aphelios, which I expect to be a relatively contested pick today, as we're finally hearing to picks and bans. And speaking of the Aphelios, removed away immediately by Movistar.
Yeah, honestly, I love these two bans. They talked about the LeBlanc on the analyst desk. That's been banned away. We see the Aphelios now that we just mentioned as well being taken off here. It was Movistar Riders coming in as the higher seed, so they are the ones who chose to go onto red side for game one. So we are now going to see in Fnatic Rising, do they just hit the 3 bans? Syndra, LeBlanc, Ryze? Is that what we're looking at right now?
I wonder, because I feel like Fnatic Rising would be more inclined potentially to actually first pick the Ryze. So maybe actually a pivot towards a jungle ban would maybe make more sense for me for Fnatic Rising. Maybe they just want to take one jungle off the board that they don't want Maxlore to necessarily respond with, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to take away the Lee Sin, which, you know, now it kind of leaves you on the Movistar side. Do you want to ban away the Viego, leave up the Xin, and that's obviously like the final champion left up and you can respond to Trundle? Do you want to ban away the Ryze? Movistar have got to be thinking right now, they're going to leave everything up and actually remove the Jace away.
I feel like you got to take the Viego here first pick on the side of Fnatic Rising. You got the Ryze there, but there are plenty of things that can go into it. And right now, it just feels like Maxlore is too damn good on this pick.
Yeah, Maxlore has carried so many games for Movistar on this champion. I wonder how Fnatic feel about it, how willing they're actually going to be to give it over. They hovered the Ryze. I think that is just going to be their first lock, and I think for the Yor, it enables Fnatic so much in the mid game to make these plays towards the side lanes that it just makes a lot of sense. And there can be picks that can obviously go into it, try and shut down the Ryze in terms of priority, or just, you know, set up for Maxlore. And we'll see here for Movistar. I'm expecting at the very least the Viego to be in this 1-2. Thresh being hovered would make sense to see that locked in as well, is very typically banned.
Yeah, of course, Duel, fantastic on the pick if he does want to end up going towards that side, but not yet going for it just at the moment. We do see Movistar Riders just wading through, and wow, very early Kennen, and not even going towards the Viego, going towards the Zhao instead.
Yeah, and before we went on air, Penguin, I did say I feel like Movistar might be inclined to actually 1 to 3 the Kennen, just because it's such a powerful pick in so many scenarios. And the Zhao also a pretty smart pick when you think about it. The Crescent Guard can actually knock away the Kennen, so they've in a way actually also removed a disengage tool at the same time of this lock-in. And obviously I would imagine Maxlore going to be comfortable taking this Zhao side of the matchup into the Viego, which is going to be Maxi's pick. And now, with the Jace gone, I think options into the Kennen can get a little bit tricky. You can obviously take the Nart into it if you're just feeling that as a blind pick. Fnatic might also feel inclined to take an AD, but I think at this moment in time, with what you see from Movistar, just locking in a safe top side that scales into team fights would make a whole bunch of sense, and that is exactly what Gangplank is.
And I love the Gangplank here as well. The cannon barrage comes down, you have the barrels as well to kind of stop any real flank. All you need right there is just a couple of wards to make sure you know exactly where Marky is going to be at pretty much all times. If those flanks can get off, it would be absolutely disastrous here for Fnatic Rising, but the Twisted Fate locked and loaded, so we've got ourselves 3 incredibly similar champions in both top jungle and mid.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder how exactly Movistar and Fnatic are going to want to interact with these champions on the top side now, because Ryze, I expect to have priority in the mid lane, but that then obviously can mean the setup might be a little bit easier for Maxlore to then walk up towards the mid lane, try and catch Dajor if he's trying to rotate over, and obviously once Destiny Gate is available, trying to catch Ryze on those rotations will actually get that much more simpler. And in general, I think the skirmishing between these two jungle mids, it's a bit in the air for me. I don't actually know who I'll necessarily take. I think Ryze probably edges it out in the early stages, but Xin Zhao has so much damage, it's hard to call. But for now, talk about the bans. Thresh removed the wave because it wasn't taken in that first free. Braum as well. Been a pretty common ban for Movistar, if I recall correctly, though. I'll have to double check. I do see there was another Spanish team also banning a lot of Braum in that second rotation. But we'll see how they want to progress now, if they want to keep on pinching on the support pool of Rhuckz.
Yeah, and honestly, I love the Braum ban as well. It is just very, very good at just stopping a Kennen and Xin Zhao getting onto your carries, getting into your face. A lot of disengage available. Something similar to the Rhuckz, of course, going to be taken away now by Movistar Riders. And these support pools are starting to be very, very starting to run dry a little bit in terms of the amount of champions you have available to you.
Yeah, you've got Alistar, you've got Leona. Nautilus is still there as an option as well. I wonder if they will actually, Fnatic Rising, just pivot away to maybe an AD ban themselves, and it will be the case with the Ezreal. Seems like they are potentially thinking about playing towards the bottom side then, if they want to actually just outright take the safest AD carry out of the available pool off the table. We'll see how they will play out, because Marky very willing to pull teleports down to the bottom side as long as he can keep it, and especially in a lane like the GP lane, Marky shouldn't necessarily have to blow his teleport very early on actually to stay even in that lane. Can very much keep up in the priority department, because you can bully the barrels out, and Leona going to be the pick for Duel. I wonder if we'll then just see Alistar come out from Rhuckz. And as for being still plenty of AD carries honestly on the table, despite the Ezra and the Aphelios bans, and it's going to be the Tristana to, I imagine, go for that 2v2. And with the Alistar still up, I expect it to just be that, so you get the good support matchup on top of it.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a pretty decent engage tool alongside a bit of a disengage in the laning phase as well. Gets you a very, very strong early level start to the lane. And we'll see now what Movistar Rider want to put Venzer on. Venzer, plenty of champions he could go to. And the one I just don't want to see at all is actually Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is something that has just fallen out completely from the meta, and something that I just don't feel really works with what they want to try and go for. I feel like if you can get something that can just stay off to the side, do the damage as much as it can, then that's what... No. I knew he'd go for it.
You set up for the whole point and everything. He was like, I don't want to see it. It's a little bit... Doesn't matter. He's still willing.
The problem I have with this right now, before we let you go on to this one, is that you have to go in with the rest of your team, meaning that if you're caught out by an Everfrost, a Rune Prison, any amount of CC, you're dead. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Penguin. Not only that, it's traditionally been seen as a bit of a bad matchup actually into Tristana. I think thematically it makes a whole bunch of sense of Movistar's composition, don't get me wrong. But how is the lane now going to play out? Because you're effectively running a counterpicked, self-counterpicked AD, plus obviously the Alistar traditionally has a very good time into the Leona. Leona struggles to engage on top of an Alistar lane. I do worry, I think, coming out of the gates for Movistar. Of course, though, however, so many strong team fight tools like that Kennen, like the Leona, and the Twisted Fate to get things going, right? To actually lock somebody up initially and then follow up on it. The tools are there for Movistar, but some of the lane matchups, particularly towards that bottom side, I am a little bit worried for if Fnatic do the traditional thing and play towards Bean.
Yeah, and honestly, the Fnatic Rising composition, looking at everyone they got, they're pretty damn happy coming out of this draft. They've got themselves a strong top side that can keep itself safe and self-sustaining. They've got a very, very strong bot end of the map. So right now, I feel like coming out of draft, Fnatic Rising are going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got, you know, Dajor on one of his most comfort champions in the Ryze, and he's playing against Twisted Fate, his other most played champion, so he's going to understand how to navigate that matchup in the 1v1, and, you know, being on a hyperscaler Rhuckz, on a playmaking support, and of course MAXI on Viego, who he's very, very familiar with, and now Movistar actually going for a level 1.
Oh, Marky, gonna try and maybe push him up towards the top side, and they're all here. Pride in a lot of trouble unless he can get the flash over the wall. I don't think he's gonna use it. Venzer gets himself the first kill, and that's just a very well executed level 1.
Yeah, I mean, just good level 1 research there from Movistar. And not only that, Pride, it looked like got body blocked off of the wall, so he couldn't flash over, couldn't get in position to do so. Really nice stuff from Movistar, and the kill goes on to Venzer as well. I think crucially, it goes on to anyone else, it's kind of like whatever. If it goes into Maxlore, maybe that's the next best, but Venzer going to be accelerated in the gold. And so he's going to hit that mythic IM spike just that bit sooner, and it could actually give them a pretty big edge, that extra longsword in that 2v2 in the bottom side.
Yeah, honestly, I like this as well from the side of Movistar Riders, giving obviously the kill over to Venzer means that with that exhaust as well, he's just very safe. The level 2 not as powerful, and actually I think Fnatic Rising not really going to look for that all-in level 2 that you generally see with the Tristana Alistar, because you just don't know if you can win it or not now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we kind of said coming into the game, sort of worried about the bottom side matchup. Maybe it doesn't matter if you just spoon feed Venzer a first blood. We'll see how exactly they want to navigate it, whether they're going to actually try and be the aggressors in this lane now. I still feel like the matchup overall, the champions, the way they interact, it should still be Fnatic favored. But crucially, Bean and Rhuckz actually did leash, I believe, MAXI, whereas Venzer and DuaLL did not. So priority should probably be on the bottom side of the map for Movistar. And Maxlore going for what looks like just a clear directly down to the bottom side. And he's going to try and pick up that skull once it spawns.
And we do actually have the push here from Movistar Riders. Of course, that extra long sword, actually it's technically an extra Doran's blade in the inventory here of Venzer, means that he is just going to be that little bit stronger. You can't take that 1v1 or level 1 trade, so you back yourselves up. We do see both junglers now on the bottom half of the map, but the Viego is going to be pathing up, so Maxlore will be on the bottom and MAXI will be on the top.
Yeah, exactly. And I think once we get to that sort of timer when the skulls are up, we also have to keep our eyes on the lane state. Whether or not Maxlore could even opt for a dive depending on how the wave is handled by the bottom side of Movistar. And even on the top side, to be honest with you, wave crashing up there. If MAXI wants to skip his blue or Gromp and go for it, loads of aggressive options right now around the skull spawning, but it seems like we're just going to get a slightly more passive pathing for now from both the junglers. But DuaLL moving up to the mid lane, just giving a bit of shadowing while Venzer resets.
Yeah, and honestly, I love this from the side of Movistar Riders, recognizing they have the push in bot side, they have control over the bot side of the map. So if someone oversteps, if someone gets a little bit too close to an enemy champion, you can get yourself right in on top of them and maybe capitalize. You lose nothing, you gain a lot if something goes your way. So good optimization of your time, as we do see Venzer now pushing into Bean. Level 3 for Venzer, as we're still waiting for the level 3s here for both Rhuckz and Bean, as DuaLL did roam himself away. And this is why you want to see supports roaming a lot.
Absolutely, especially certain champions, of course, really love to hit that level 6 mark just a bit earlier. Gives you so many more playmaking abilities in most cases. Of course, we spoke about this composition. Wants to dive, likely meaning it wants to be very proactive. Hitting things like that Killer Instinct sooner for Venzer. Definitely going to propel that gameplay style, as not too much in the first couple of minutes, especially given the lane states. Expected maybe a little more bloodbathy gameplay from the bottom side, but I think after the first blood, Bean and Rhuckz kind of understand. Trying to stay 2v2 is maybe not too favorable.
Yeah, not the best idea of doing. They just want to make sure they don't give away too much of an advantage. MAXI will be spotted out here. We'll know he's been spotted out and picks himself up a ward on his way out. We do see Venzer and DuaLL playing very respectfully. They will head themselves back now. Got themselves about 5 or 6 CS lead after having that early first blood. And for Fnatic Rising, they're not unhappy. Yes, you live away the first blood. It happens. You move on with your life. But they are looking for those big level 6. You're looking for the Cannon Barrage. You're looking for the Realm Warp. And more importantly, for MAXI, you're looking for those Heartbreakers to get those resets off. So for you, where are you expecting us to see that first real bit of action between these two teams?
Well, I was about to say the bottom side, but it looks like Movistar are actually eyeing up a potential dive. Pride got a massive wave underneath the tower. And Marky definitely trying to pressure a bit, and the teleports are coming in now.
Here we go, double teleports. That's both mid laners joining in, but it's just a response. Gold card locked and loaded, but you cannot go any further. So good response here from Fnatic Rising. They keep the top laner safe.
Yeah, very, very quick on the trigger with that teleport from Dajor. Immediately calls off the teleport. No harm done on either side, really. So Dajor actually need a little bit of harass.
He's fine. He's got himself, yeah, he's got a phase rush, but while all those resources were committed to the top side, it does mean the Fnatic Rising picked themselves up the first dragon of the game. So using that extra pressure, or lack of, if you will, on the bot side to get themselves an objective.
Yeah, and whilst Dajor was away, XKenzuke had a big wave stacked up, and now he's level 6. Could potentially look towards the top side again, as Maxlore still hovering, and Pride immediately kind of understands. I think he can actually see Maxlore now on that ward as he clears the Gromp, but fully understands the pressure of the map. But Fnatic Rising actually opting to just outright call Rhuckz up here to try and defend this dive, but
I just think it's too risky.
Yeah, I think as well. You actually have Rhuckz there, so I don't think you can go for this dive. And now they know exactly where Dajor is. So they're going to use the Realm Ward flash in. Not going to catch him out just yet. Do they land the Rune Prison? They don't need it. They've got the root, and they're going to be able to take down Maxlore. That's going to be an equalization of the kills. Fnatic Rising doing fantastically to react to the play.
Yeah, I think Movistar a little bit indecisive, maybe just taking a little bit too much time. Marky.
Ooh, slash. So close, so close. And honestly, this is not what we really expected from Fnatic Rising. It's Movistar Rider who are looking for the plays, but Fnatic Rising are just meeting them there.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's just Movistar giving Fnatic enough time to actually, you know, meet them at this top side play. Rhuckz had enough time to reset, walk to the top side, and still be here for this fight. So, Movistar, whilst definitely trying to be proactive, Pride.
Well, it's a top for top flash, so they trade them off in the end. So Pride just ended up losing his, got slowed down just a little bit too much. Then he did not want to be getting caught out. But Bean did take a bit of a bad trade now on this bot side. He's been left on his lonesome here, and that's actually the difference between the two teams right now, is that Rhuckz has been roaming around. Rhuckz has been walking with MAXI and Dajor to make sure that he's getting the best possible rotations, whereas Bean has been by himself going 1v2 against Venzer and DuaLL.
Yeah, exactly. And seems like Movistar now on the back of that pressure, they're going to just try and take away this red buff. They should get it. MAXI doesn't really seem to be too interested in securing that one. Doesn't want to play anybody towards a fight, and I think crucially Dajor as well in base. So numbers disadvantage would be theirs. Weren't too sure on where XKenzuke was himself, also going for a reset. So just take the safer option. Movistar get the red buff. There is nothing else to really retreat back to. Herald's going to spawn up in a couple of seconds time, so that's where my eyes are now going to be on for both of these teams. Who exactly is going to be willing to try and prioritize that one?
I was going to say, though, Fnatic Rising have the push in top, they have the push in mid, and they are going to rotate Rhuckz up a little bit quicker. So DuaLL and Venzer will be here, so it will be a 5v4. As you can see now on the minimap, Bean is still in that bot side, but I think this one should be going down, unless the side of Movistar Riders decide they want to try and contest. They're a little bit slow on this rotation. XKenzuke needs to be a bit careful. Rhuckz is here. He goes in. Two-man knockup, gets on top of the Twisted Fate, but the Rift-Tailed has gone down in favor of Movistar Riders. And they pick up the cow as well. So, one kill, one objective. Movistar's Riders just quicker with their AD carry.
Yeah, I mean, Movistar moved the whole party up towards the top side, and Bean actually reset, it looks like. Didn't go for any plates on the bottom side. So it's not like there's, you know, gold being immediately traded for that. So that's just Movistar winning out on a free kill plus Herald. Nothing being traded on the opposite side of the map. Fnatic Rising, you have to wonder why not yield that if you know you're not going to rotate the AD carry up the Tristana up. Maybe not expecting Movistar to just send both Venzer and DuaLL at the same time, but it's something that Movistar love to do. They do love to contest these first Heralds almost every single time. They won't give up without a fight.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like they were two-manning it. I feel like if they wanted to take that one sneakily and get the advantage on bot side and, you know, maybe force a late rotation from Movistar, Pride should have walked down. Pride should have left his lane and just said, cool, I give up a couple of CS, we get the objective, and we move on, because it was close to them being able to, you know, get it out so quickly, but just a little bit slow on that. It means that Movistar Riders do end up picking up the Rift Herald and, importantly, the kills as well.
Yeah, I mean, the initial engage looks pretty nice for Fnatic Rising, but I think crucially MAXI focusing on the Herald whilst Dajor and Rhuckz trying to get that kill on XKenzuke, but Rhuckz is still level 5. He doesn't have the Unbreakable Will up yet. Isn't just ridiculously tanky to stand in the middle of multiple members like that. Even with the Aftershock, it does have a very short duration, so just gets burst down. And Maxlore was the one that went out on the smite, so no Herald for Fnatic Rising, despite being the team that wanted to get onto that objective first.
Well, they did use the time for Bean in the bot side to get himself back on an equal footing, and he will start to win out on this matchup now as he starts to build up that extra little bit of passive attack range, as we do see now in the bot side. We do have level 6s for both the supports. MAXI and Maxlore both roaming down here, so both junglers could be here. There we go, Xenoblade in. We are going to see DuaLL now getting caught out there. Is going to be a Destiny Gate, though, and a Realm Warp as everyone comes down, but the difference is going to be the 5th man, or 4.5 man, of the Gangplank dropping down the Cannon Barrage. Movistar Riders back themselves up, but everyone's still here. They're still pushing, still prodding, still seeing if they can go for something, but with that gold card lock, it looks like Fnatic Rising don't want any more to do with this.
Yeah, just a bit of a neutralization there. Pretty much just almost blown across the board. Mid for mid. Rhuckz used the Unbreakable Will to not drop, and DuaLL, I don't actually think, had level 6 to start the fight, maybe didn't use it. Marky going in on Pride.
I think he might be really far extended here. Might be a little bit dead if he's not careful. One last auto attack, one last Q, and that's going to be enough to take him down. Marky with the solo bolo, and that's just Pride really not respecting the fact that he doesn't have flash.
Yeah, whilst that play on the bottom side was happening, it was Marky in the mid lane, Pride up on the top side pressuring that tower. I think just got a little bit greedy for an extra plate perhaps. Didn't have the barrels, using them for the trial by fire resets. Only had the one by the time Marky actually showed up. Now Dajor, TP, yeah.
He's going to come in, they're going to try and catch on the Venzer, they're going to jump straight in on top of him, and that is going to be the Kai'Sa dead and buried. They're not going to be able to trade this one back just yet. I lie, it's Ryze to fall, and it's a 1-for-1 trade. Maxlore had not gone away just yet.
Yeah, Maxlore hadn't left, just dropped the Herald there. I think just unfortunate timing, teleport and Herald channel at the same time. Fnatic Rising don't want to cancel the play. I mean, they can't with the teleport. It just means it's a 1-for-1. And I don't believe Venzer got gold off that Herald charge. I think it was just Maxlore. I could be wrong. I didn't quite get to see. Maybe the replay will highlight it for us with the Herald charge. I'm not sure if he actually got in range initially. Yeah, he should have gotten some gold there. But teleport comes in, actually has a response. Never mind. Outright to this play. But maybe expecting Maxlore to have walked off. Maybe don't think that Dajor is going to get bursted down like this. Wasn't able to flash away from any of the CC, and it means that during that CC, practically loses his life by the time he flashes, already dead.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was just an unfortunate read from Fnatic Rising. They knew the Rift Herald was on DuaLL, not onto Maxlore, so they thought, oh, maybe it's just DuaLL dropping it down. No Maxlore around. Sadly for them, that's not how this one goes. Now it's 2 kills for the Zhao. This is starting to see a little bit of a movement here from this Zhao pick. We can see why Maxlore was prioritizing it just a little bit higher than that Viego. Still only about a 2,000 gold lead, a dragon apiece now. Movistar Riders still very much in the ascendancy, but first items are starting to be picked up. Gore Drinker now for Zhao. We are seeing those boots of Ionian boots of lucidity for the Gangplank as he starts to build up towards his Divine Sunder or potentially his Triforce, and they're going to jump straight in onto Venzer. They got the Cannon Barrage, they're jumping everybody down here. Bean picks himself up a kill. Not only that, but Marky, he might be in a little bit of trouble. He's not very healthy.
Yeah, Marky might have just teleported to his own doom here. Spectrum War gonna go wide. He does have flash.
He does have flash. He does have himself a slicing Maelstrom as well. There's the Heartbreaker. Flash away, and oh, Dajor has been caught out on the rotation. They even used the Blast Cone to get him back. There's a stacked deck right to his face. Destiny Gate coming in on this backside. It's going to be a 3v4 in the bottom lane as Fnatic Rising are trying to keep themselves alive. They have to be careful of Movistar Riders. They need to catch out the Tristana with a great buster shot. Keeps herself right away from all of the different carries. Should be able to get out with her life, and that is going to be a 3-for-2 trade. Sorry, 3-for-1 trade in favor of Movistar Riders.
Yeah, Movistar, after they lose Venzer and then almost Marky, eventually get the numbers back down towards the mid lane. And crucially, even going to get that tower before the plates drop off. And steal away a couple of jungle camps on top of that. And Venzer also catches a wave on the top side. Denies Pride from trading the towers globally. As pretty good play. We'll see how Dajor got caught out, because it seems like he just wanted to maybe get to the bottom side. Actually turns around to cast spells.
Yeah.
That's a strange decision. I'm pretty sure he saw Jewel there as well. Maybe just not necessarily expecting Kenzuke to be so aggressive with the flash over the wall, but it's respect you've got to pay. And with that, it snowballs over down towards the bottom side because Kenzuke able to just free Destiny Gate, channel down towards the bottom side, and it secures MAXI and Rhuckz.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was... I won't put a huge amount of fault onto Dajor there, because I feel like that was just... Didn't expect to be on vision, didn't expect to see the Twisted Fate flashing so aggressively right on top of him. So we are going to see Maxlore with DuaLL now roaming up towards this top side as they look to secure themselves their second turret. We did see the mid lane and the bot side being pushed in. No teleport here for the Ryze. MAXI is around, and that's why Maxlore does not go in. They are going to get the barrels to try and clear out this wave, and with Rhuckz here as well, it's a native 3v3 in the top side. Two members of Fnatic Rising are in mid dealing with the Kennen, but this feels like Movistar Riders are picking up the pace. They're the one dictating where the fights are happening, and they're the ones that are coming out on top each time.
Yeah, and this is something that Movistar are so good at. Snowballing the mid-game pressure that they've accrued from the early, turning into even larger advantages. And now on the Herald first this time, unlike the first Herald, and Fnatic Rising, I think, intelligently just going to yield this one. I don't think there's any real need to try and contest. You don't necessarily have to set up. And crucially, Kenzuke also has a teleport if he wants to just move from the bottom side. They have a catch-22 there for Fnatic Rising. If they commit to the Herald, Kenzuke either teleports up to the fight or just takes the bottom tier 2. So just yield the Herald instead, and it's the smallest possible loss.
Yeah, you also don't have your Everfrost built up on your Ryze just yet, so you know you're at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of the mythic items. So with that Rift Herald taken, it also means that Maxlore can now rotate down with DuaLL and Marky, get themselves that control over the Dragon area around the red side pit for Fnatic Rising, and they're just going to be able to pick themselves up their second Dragon of the game. I will say, so far so good for Movistar Riders. They will want them to try and pick up the pace just a little bit and look for a couple more picks, because they are in the ascendancy, and that's how you keep this Fnatic Rising team down.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to try and just nip any play in the bud from the Fnatic Rising side as Movistar, and a little bit under 3,000 gold ahead. Definitely a pretty comfortable position for a team like Movistar to be in. But like you say, they want to push it a little bit further. I think with no neutrals on the map now for the next couple of minutes, I expect to see priority maybe shifted towards XKenzuke in terms of on the side lane. Movistar likely to play around him, wait for Marky's teleport to come up, and then maybe try and get a really nice skirmish around the side lane push, perhaps, as Rhuckz and Zhao, both sides really, just clearing out some vision here. But I expect as we enter this period of no objectives, we'll go into a little bit of a lull.
We'll go into a little bit of a lull. We do see there on the bottom side, Ryze pushing into that tower, pretty much guaranteed to get it. No one's contesting him right now, but it looks like Movistar Riders are the ones looking to try and maybe contest in this mid lane. They have a Rift Herald in their back pocket, so they're going to probably drop that, look to take the turret, and just trade the objective.
Yeah, exactly. And Fnatic Rising were also guarding the shot from Dajor to make sure that Movistar couldn't actually make their way over to the bottom side to contest safely. And now instead, with that Herald, just going to drop it in the mid lane. Honestly, if they want to, should get 2 charges. We'll see if they want to just yield it. Looks like it might just drop a little bit too low, which gets smited away. But Movistar, I mean, mid lane tier 1. Very happy to take that one away, especially when Fnatic Rising have so much wave clear between the Gangplank and the Ryze.
Yeah, honestly, great reuse of the Rift Herald there. Of course, it was traded back, so Fnatic Rising did not lose out entirely. They did trade bot lane tier 1 for that tier 1 in the mid lane, but ends up being a 2-for-1 trade as, woo, Venzer flashes away. The cannon barrage was slowing them down just a little bit, and you have to be so careful on this Kai'Sa.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much CC. I think you can't really dodge away as, yeah, Marky in trouble here. Side lane play, Fnatic Rising been doing this all groups.
Yeah, Pride is going to get caught up with the Slicing Maelstrom. They're not going to commit any more resources from Movistar Riders. They know the Kennen is dead. It's all about who gets it. Shut down, goes over to the Ryze, and there's nothing you can do to trade back. Nice little opportunity there from Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, and on the Movistar side of things, the waves aren't quite there to punish immediately this play from Fnatic Rising. You can see XKenzuke on the bottom side shoving in that wave, but it's quite far away from that tier 2, so they're not really going to get any chip damage on that. Fnatic Rising, all in all, shouldn't really lose anything outside of what they committed to the play itself. Really nice proactivity to actually catch out Marky on the side lane, just overextend them.
Yeah, and honestly, I love these kind of plays from all these different teams. There's no objectives up. There's no towers that are really easy to be taken. You know they're just coming off of basically a reset, or they have to go on to a reset. So there's no real loss. Even if the play doesn't really work out for you, even if it goes horribly wrong, you lose 2 players for 1 in favor of Movistar Riders. There's something that Movistar Riders can take off it. So good opportunity there for Fnatic Rising and Movistar. Just need to be a little bit careful with that kind of stuff. They do now have Marky with that Zhonya's Hourglass. I do love this for the Kennen, the second item. Gives you that extra safety, especially when you're running in headfirst into a team like Fnatic Rising.
Yeah, exactly. And there's quite a few abilities that you would love to get Zhonya's up as well. Being able to Zhonya's things like the Buster Shot, for example, or just a combo from Alistar to make sure that you stay inside of a fight if you're in that Slicing Maelstrom form. Of course, very, very high value. Just gives you, like you say, that added flexibility just to go that little bit deeper, because you know that stasis is going to allow you to get off more of your damage. Across the board, though, in terms of second item completions, XKenzuke also hit that rapid fire kind of mark. So Fnatic Rising gonna have to pay a little bit more respect and attention to that as oh boy, Pride base checking.
Here we go. That's gonna be a dead old top laner. Pride not knowing exactly where the Pikachu was and going to be taken and punished very, very heavily. And now this is where it starts to get a little bit dicey here for the Fnatic Rising. You've no way of answering the bot lane while Movistar Riders are pushing in around the Baron.
Yeah, and not only that, Pride committed the cannon barrage to that too, so if he respawns, maybe Movistar decides to start the Baron in the next 15 seconds or whatever. In a hypothetical, wouldn't even have that to maybe counterplay. Of course, Marky committed the Slicing Maelstrom, but he's going to have all of that pressure on the bottom side now. Someone's going to have to respond to it. It looks like it will be Dajor that goes and catches that wave and the incoming one afterwards. But Pride having a bit of a rough one this game, definitely been focused on a little bit from the Movistar side. Definitely 2 times back-to-back where he's just kind of walked into Marky, or he's allowed himself to be walked in on by Marky to just get solo kill.
Yeah, it feels like after that first blood, the first blood did so much for Movistar Riders. It stabilized the bot side, made sure Venzer and DuaLL weren't going to get any kind of hard aggression coming out from Rhuckz or Bean. It meant that Pride had to be a little more careful on the top side. They knew that he had already died, so it was going to be a little bit more apprehensive, shall we say. And it just helped them to survive to go up to 21 minutes now, where they have themselves a 3,000 gold lead. There's a Destiny Gate here. Rhuckz gets over the wall with the Blast Cone. Bean will be kept safe. So you've lost the Destiny Gate. The Dragon will spawn. This will put Movistar Riders onto Soul Point. But a TP here from the Gangplank will keep Fnatic Rising in the conversation of maybe contesting.
Yeah, exactly. But keep our eyes on Marky. See what kind of potential flank angle he's got. Oh, if
Blast Cone.
Sneak over. Yeah, Blast Cone maybe. But Dragon's being started up. It's being burnt down quite low. Pride not going to be able to find any barrels. Oh, Marky's got such a good angle here. Fnatic committing further forward. He's going to flash over.
But he's going to flash over, and there's a slicing Maelstrom, and everybody from Movistar Riders dives in. The Ryze is dead, but look at Bean. Bean is free-firing. Venzer trying to jump on top of him. Flash forward, gold card. Pride is dead. He goes golden. Is he going to see it now? Much more damage coming onto Bean. He gets the exhaust. He has to use his own cleanse. It was everything for the side of Movistar Riders, even though they lost their jungler early on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fnatic Rising, I'm not even going to say overcommit. It's just a good flank angle from Marky. He recognizes that with the flash, Fnatic Rising are going to have to commit forward eventually if they want to fight for this dragon. And Fnatic Rising wanted to fight for the dragon. Nothing else to say. Marky just gets a beautiful slicing Maelstrom to set out for the rest of the team to just dive on forward. Despite losing the jungler, it doesn't really matter when so many people are getting hit by all of these AoE abilities.
This is just going to be a little bit of a hole now for the side of Fnatic Rising. Great capitalization, though, from Movistar Riders. They just did themselves so much, just setting themselves up, saying, look, we know you have to come into us. We know that you have to try and get in on this objective. Otherwise, there's another fight in 4.5 minutes that you must take.
Exactly, and you know, it is just a Cloud Soul, but at the end of the day, quite a few high-value Cloud Souls. And of course, I said before the fight even kicked off, look at Marky, because it looks like he's going to have a pretty good angle on Fnatic Rising. They just want to commit onto this dragon because they feel like it's necessary. The only person not getting hit by this slicing Maelstrom is Bean, rather, beg your pardon, as, you know, Marky doesn't even really have to cast anything like the Zhonya's. It's just everybody getting absolutely melted as the rest of the team dives forward. And, you know, we had a couple of questions maybe for the matchups, right? In the bottom side in particular, some of the priority around Movistar's draft, but there's a reason why they picked up that Kai'Sa in the bottom side. Despite it not necessarily being the best matchup, it can always follow up on those massive engages from a slicing Maelstrom.
Yeah, and you mentioned it in the draft as well, is that the Kai'Sa works fantastically with this composition. You're diving forward with the Leona, the Zhao, and the Kennen. You want someone who can maybe just jump in and blow somebody up. Kai'Sa does that very well. I will say for Fnatic Rising, it's not over just yet, but you're looking for mistakes. You're looking for outplays.
Yeah, exactly. You have to try and find picks somewhere. Oh,
nicely done.
That's 2 ultimates blown by Movistar. See if Fnatic Rising maybe, like you say, look to try and make a pick somewhere in this little window where XKenzuke isn't necessarily going to have the Destiny Gate, would have to teleport down to a side lane play, but Marky, it seems, just going to respect the possibility of getting cross-mapped right now.
Gonna respect it, as we do see it's pretty much just ping-ponging of waves. DuaLL gonna walk forward and see Rhuckz is there, so Maxlore now moving very confidently into the topside jungle of Fnatic Rising, clearing out that vision, putting down a little bit more pressure onto Pride. 0-3 and 3 for the Gangplank. Going into this Kennen matchup, I definitely feel like this first pick Kennen for the side of Movistar Riders is very much coming out on top for them, but you've got some pretty decent scaling. The Ryze will become just machine gun Ryze in those side lanes. The Gangplank will become a menace, and Tristana, as we all know and love, is just a late game monster. So you're not out of the woods just yet here as Movistar Riders.
No, definitely not. All it takes, and we've seen it, you know, internationally for years, one good barrel chain will absolutely win out on a fight. Yeah, Rhuckz. I think, yeah, going to get flashed onto.
Yeah, I think he's dead. There's nothing we're going to do, but the Cannon Barrage is doing some decent damage. Maxlore going to be targeted here by Bean. They're trying to go on top of this. It's going to be a fight on several different fronts. As you can see, Bean just can't get himself into this fight. They committed the TP there from the Ryze, but Fnatic Rising can't get anything going for them. And now, with 2 dead on the side of Fnatic Rising, Movistar Riders are thinking about going for that Baron, but they're not 100% sure just yet.
Yeah, a lot of discipline to not actually just outright go for that Baron, despite finding the pick onto who I would say probably, you know, Pride it's absolutely horrible doing Barons into Gangplank, and obviously Rhuckz can very easily follow up and set up for Dajor and Bean and the rest of the team inside the pit. So Movistar Riders still respecting the threat on the backside, and that Cannon Barrage in that team fight, very, very strong at dispelling Movistar initially, but they just dive over it. They've got things like the Killer Instinct or just the Zenith Blade to go directly over it. Ended up not really doing too much, and Pride on the top side kind of isolated away from the rest of the team. Not able to get a massive barrel chain off onto multiple members again. Seems as
I was just about to say, they've got themselves an opportunity now. They can go straight onto this Baron. They've got 2 items onto the right. There they see the Destiny Gate coming in. It's going to be KenZuke trying to see if he can delay this one, but this Baron's going down thick and fast. I don't think he can go for it. I don't think he can shake it. And they can take the Realm Warp out of there. Nice. What? They take him straight on top of him. KenZuke dead, done, shut down, and all of a sudden this game has turned on its head.
Was that coincidence? Did KenZuke teleport there and then they... How? I mean, it's daylight robbery, but it's such a great play from Fnatic Rising to recognize, okay, Movistar Riders, they're on a reset timer. We've got this Fed Tristana. We've got a Ryze. We can burn through this Baron in a matter of a couple of seconds. And they pick it up pretty much for free. And this could be that sort of breath of life they need to potentially find a good fight around this Cloud Soul Dragon for Movistar. We have the replay on the screen. And I mean, it's just good timing. Fnatic Rising understand, they read the map. They say, okay, Movistar, they're not here. The Destiny Gate, I don't know if that's intentionally followed or not.
It's just
either way.
Yeah, it's just either it's 100% a coincidence. They had no vision, but greatly done there by Fnatic Rising. They will gladly take that kill. They come off of the Baron. They get themselves the Drake as well. They can now start to push in, get some of this freestanding gold, and this is where the game starts to get a little bit more difficult. Movistar Riders had the advantage. They're still ahead by about 1,500, but that gold lead is going away very, very fast. And now Maxlore needs to be a little bit careful. Marky is on the biggest flank I have ever seen in my life. They see him. They know exactly where he is, and he's going to get caught out. They're going to try and bust a shot him all the way back out of this, but Bean will not survive. There is the Killer Instinct right down onto Pride, and they trade the top laners now. It's a 2-for-1 trade, but you can see now there's nothing that this Viego can do. It's a 3-for-1 trade in favor of Movistar Riders. That was a fantastic flank.
Yeah, it was a fantastic flank. I still have to question, why walk directly into a Kennen as an AD carry? It doesn't make too much sense to me, but Movistar Riders with this play, they're going to halt the amount of tempo that Fnatic Rising just had built up. They picked up the Dragon, obviously the Baron in pocket, about to set up Siege. That's going to break apart this entire sequence of play for Fnatic Rising. They're no longer going to be able to siege onto anything too heavily, and he just slips in through every bit of vision.
God, look at him!
But he spotted from so far away. It's just such a interesting pathing. Maybe they just weren't paying attention on the minimap. Didn't quite catch exactly where Marky is. That's my best bet, to be totally honest with you, as Fnatic Rising just caught out on the retreat as they recognize they are getting flanked. I suppose it's hard to necessarily tell, but Movistar more than happy to take that play and break it apart.
Yeah, you will be, get Marky's TP coming back up as well, so there is an opportunity, if you can, to go for something similar. And these are the kind of plays that Movistar Riders are going to have to do if they want to try and win out this first game. They have to try and keep finding those opportunities, because right now it still feels like it's Fnatic Rising slowly getting stronger, slowly becoming uncontainable, as we see 3 items on the Tristana, 3 items on the Ryze, almost 3 items onto the Gangplank. These are massive late game carries, and you just are so short ranged.
Yeah, exactly. You're pretty much just working with KenZuke gold cards in terms of range, and that's about it. And that's not massive. It's about, I think, 700, maybe 675, as Fnatic Rising grouping up on the bottom side. That's a free tier 2 for everybody to pick up. And Movistar, they've got their numbers kind of scattered a bit. KenZuke committed to the top side, has the teleport, of course. Duel.
It's a huge wave.
Hex flash. Yeah, it's a huge wave too. And you're going to go deep.
They're going to go straight in on top of Venzer. He cannot help Maxlore, but KenZuke comes in with the teleport, slicing Maelstrom right across the side of Fnatic Rising's team. And Marky is making this first pick massive for the side of Movistar Riders. Fnatic Rising thought they had the play. They thought they had the turret, but they did not consider that Marky was there. Triple kill for the Twisted Fate. Ace, and they may look to just end the game.
Movistar turn around Fnatic Rising's very over-aggressive dive. I mean, Fnatic must have just felt like they had enough damage to burst down somebody, but in the end they didn't. And now Movistar, with this amount of time on the death timers, might just be able to push for the whole inhibitor. I'm not sure if they're going to go on towards the Nexus, because 20 seconds I don't think is enough time to end the game. In fact, they're actually just going to pull back now. not even going to opt to try and break open the base. Opting more for tempo, it feels like. Another reset timer, perhaps, as Fnatic Rising, the Orc goes real deep on the Realm Warp, trying to find out Venzer as the rest of the team dives forward onto Maxlore, not able to actually kill him because of the Crescent Guard, and eventually the stopwatch and the teleports come in. Marky stops everybody on Fnatic Rising from accelerating forward, and Venzer kept alive in the backside for his own mechanics, and Fnatic Rising just get caught on the retreat out as well. It's just a really nice response from Movistar. You understand the idea from Fnatic Rising, but if a wave that big, maybe you just hit on the tower instead. I think it's just the safer play. Maybe not expecting teleports to come in that quickly.
And honestly, I gotta give massive props to Maxlore, keeping himself alive and relevant throughout so much that was being thrown at him. So many ultimates, so many abilities and auto attacks, yet he's kept himself alive, gave time. Uh-oh, no more time for this. We're gonna see Rhuckz now maybe in a little bit of trouble. He's gonna try and just back on top of this top side. They're trying to actually get a nice little punch back onto DuaLL, but he's not the carry you want. Pride is gone. They've traded 1-for-1. It's a top laner for support, but now Movistar Riders have used everything. They have to back themselves away. They don't have a wave. It's a 1-for-1 trade, and for the moment, Fnatic Rising will take that.
Yeah, I think Fnatic Rising will take that, and crucially, because of the pathing and how people have been forced out and away from that fight, Movistar gonna have to reset. Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. Whether Fnatic are gonna try and take it on spawn, we'll have to see, but if they want to grab it, they certainly can. No one's really on the map for Movistar to necessarily start up a Baron in response immediately. Movistar actually back out on the map a little quicker than anticipated from myself, so maybe they look for the trade, maybe they look for a fight. Just going to catch the midway for now. I assume this should just be the Dragon going over to Fnatic Rising, however. And that's going to put both these teams on Cloud Soul point. Means the Elder, Dragon a very long way away.
I will say, though, you have got an Infinity Edge onto this Kai'Sa, and with the isolation damage of that Acathian Rain, it's gone. It's dead. There's no way you can contest this. As I say that, though, Movistar Riders, they don't want to risk it. They don't want to burger flip it. They do not want that coin to be flipped, and now Fnatic Rising, they find themselves at a little bit of a crossroads. They push mid, they go back on towards this Baron. Looks like they're going to try and just push in that wave. Look at Marky on the minimap. Marky has just found himself right behind enemy lines.
God.
They don't know exactly where the Kennen is.
They're
Pikachu
worried,
is there. They're very worried.
They found
There's
him.
the Destiny Gate. Marky is there. Pikachu used Thunder as he goes right in. He gets punted over the wall, and now Venzer free falling, flashes forward. Venzer finds the Tristana, and that's the fight. There's the kills, and that's going to be Movistar Rider finding another fantastic flank.
Yet again, Marky finds another flank onto everybody. Dajor dead as well. To xKenzuke, it's flank after flank, Kennen ultimate after Kennen ultimate. And Fnatic Rising, despite having so many great tools, headbutt, the Buster Shot, they just can't get Marky out of the backline in time for him to not have impact in these team fights. And he stuns up everybody, and it allows Movistar to follow up. And with the death timers the way they are, Movistar still standing 5 strong. They should be able to end the game. Pride can't stand in front of 5 members of Movistar, and that should be the Spanish team taking the first game.
That is going to be game 1 of this best of 5, going over to the Superliga representatives. Fnatic Rising had some opportunities, but in the end, they were just too far behind. Movistar Riders playing fantastically around their win conditions, which was those Kennen flanks.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the Kennen flank after Kennen flank at every single crucial team fight for me, which just edges Movistar over the edge. I think Fnatic Rising definitely had their moments. They got very creative. That Baron play, for example, the dive on the bottom side, I don't mind the idea of it. It's a little bit burger flippy, I'll be honest, but at the end of the day, if you can execute and then maybe you take the tower afterwards or you kill Venzer quick enough, maybe that allows you to snowball that team fight, but it's still an overstep, and it's one that Movistar punish, and that's going to leave Movistar walking out of game 1 with the victory. Fnatic, a little bit to think about, I think, especially with that Kennen pick. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on that from this game onwards. It has to maybe be banned away. It has to be first picked. We'll have to see how things progress. Obviously, site selection, things like that will have to come into effect.
Yeah, honestly, this was such a powerful pick coming in now for Movistar Riders. They put a lot of priority onto it. We'll see if anything changes in the draft. We'll send it to a break, and when we return, the Analyst desk will break down that game in a little bit more detail.
It's gonna flash in, and he steals the Baron! How did that connect by Edgeway?
Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
He's gonna flash in and he steals the farm. How does that connect by anyway?
Welcome back to the Amazon European Masters, where we just saw Movistar Riders take their first game in the best of 5 against Fnatic Rising, and I must say, it was a bit exciting at one point, especially with that Nasher.
It kept coming back and forth, right? There were some fights, Fnatic was winning, and then Movistar Riders were able to turn it back. But I think overall, I felt like in the early game, Movistar Riders managed to use their globals much more effectively. As you can see on your screen as well, there were points where they were catching people off guard, and then they were using their people advantage on the map to take these fights home. And all in all, I felt like Movistar Riders were ahead of the play from the start. There was a little bit where they fumbled, but then they were always finding these peaks. They were using the numbers advantage to gank up onto Fnatic Rising, and Fnatic Rising, unfortunately, on the other side of the map, they just had no reply.
And I have to be honest, I was surprised with Dajor, the way he reacted in the early game, but you see Movistar just taking over that game. At one point, I mean, especially this, what happened here, this is utterly disgusting.
That's Kennen, that's absolutely disgusting. And again, I just felt like Movistar played better around their vision. You will see that the only fight that they lost was a fight that they hadn't necessarily set up properly, and that was when Fnatic Rising took the Baron from them, right? They had no vision, Fnatic was in, Fnatic was out. But again, even at the end, you saw that Fnatic Rising tried to push their advantages, they tried to push too hard, and then again, they get instantly punished. I felt like the Kai'Sa was working very well for them, and at the end of the day, the Alistar felt like something like a last-second reply to the Kennen, because they had nothing to throw the mouse out with.
Yeah, there wasn't really a good reply. Whenever Marky would do this, nobody would necessarily kick him out fast enough.
Say that, but in this particular game, it worked.
I want to say that it happens in that point, but you know, it is the point. They get a Herald, and I think that is something that Ox wants to talk about in a bit, though. But if you look at that gold grab, you do see what happened in that particular moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, if you look at the other carries, you see that Twisted Fate was everywhere. You see the Kai'Sa worked so well in a lane that shouldn't have worked very well, because she gets early game punished by the Tristana. But yeah, the 36 almost K onto the Kennen is absolutely crazy. You see that Pride tried his best. I think Pride was like 0-6, and he was still doing so much work and so much damage. But on targets that they can't get stuck down, it's just really hard to pull this off.
And there was one particular moment where this all started, and Ox, who's standing at the telestrator, will be showing us what that moment exactly is.
Yeah, so I want to highlight the 2 critical errors that we saw Fnatic make around the Herald at about 8 minutes that really put Movistar ahead and put them behind. So just to kind of set the story of where we are now, you can see that what's happening is we're getting Leona and Kai'Sa pushed in the bot lane and are moving down. Rhuckz is also moving over to the Herald, but he doesn't have the support of Tristana because they weren't able to find priority in the bot lane. So we can play on from this position, and Fnatic have started up the Herald, but they're going to end up with the numbers at disadvantage. So as things continue, we see Movistar start to move in. We know that they're going to have the extra man advantage, and we see Bean push bot in and then reset. But he's never going to be there in time for this Herald. So we have this moment where Rhuckz is looking for the engage here, trying to find a good angle, and they could have made the decision to disengage. Instead, they look for the fight. And as you play it out, obviously you start off with a nice combo, but this is when DuaLL and Venzer turn up. They secure the Herald thanks to Maxlore Smite. They take out Rhuckz and end up coming out really ahead in this play. And then on top of that, what we see if we look at the mini-map is that Bean is in base. He hasn't done anything with his time. The reason this is such a big mistake is not only are you losing out on the Herald, you're also losing that kill going into the other team. And the big thing is Bean didn't get anything. He could have pushed the wave in and just taken some plates bot lane. You could have backed off around the Herald and had a pretty okay play. Fnatic got a big greedy play on both sides. And after this is where we saw Movistar use that Herald to snowball their advantage in this game.
And that snowball, that is what you saw, especially when the moment the Heralds get used on the bot lane. Not only Maxlore gets gold, but I think more important, Venzer gets gold as well on the Kai'Sa.
I think that was so key because Venzer got the first kill in that first blood as well. And then Kai'Sa, a very long, short-range ADC, gets punished by the bombs from Tristana, especially early on. And then getting that first blood gold, getting a lot of resources put into Venzer and a lot of gold early on with the Rift Herald. You saw that Venzer was everywhere. There were points where Fnatic Ryze were trying to chase the Twisted Fate on the side, and then Venzer was suddenly jumping in, executing. He was literally just a Nocturne in disguise. And I felt like, again, Movistar was way ahead of the play, but most importantly, they were using the numbers advantage on the map so freaking well, like Ox highlight as well. There were points where they would pick someone on the side of the map, and then they would instantly transition to the bot side with their numbers.
And the thing is, prior to this Herald point, it felt like Fnatic actually had a good read. You know, they had the Ryze that they first picked. They were matching the top side leans coming out from Movistar riders, and I was pretty impressed. And it just felt like this is when things fell out of control and never regained it. I think Movistar are a team, if they come out the early game in a strong spot, their mid game is really excellent.
But though, if we look at the draft, we see some points coming back again, and that is the facilitation in the mid lane.
The facilitation in the mid lane for sure, because both of these mid laners want to roam. And then you have Twisted Fate, where he can see the entire map with the global ultimate. And then you have the Ryze. I felt like Dajor was not as influential on the Ryze, roaming around the map as xKenzuke was onto the Twisted Fate. But yet again, this comes back to the draft. xKenzuke's most played champions are the Ryze, the Twisted Fate, and the LeBlanc. And he's 100% win rate on the LeBlanc and the Twisted Fate so far. I wouldn't necessarily leave it open against him again. But I think the biggest point of contention, where is he? Right there, that rat behind me, the electrical rat in the top lane. Both of these top laners are coming in with 100% win rate through groups, both Pride and Marky, 100% win rate. Kennen himself has about 88, 87% win rate.
It's
for the
pretty
entire
high,
stage.
yeah.
It's crazy. And Marky's coming in with a banging 10 KDA on the champion. So it's something to be scared of. He solo bowled Pride twice in the top lane, so maybe it would be a champion that could potentially even get first pick in the next one.
Yeah, because it felt like even when Fnatic started to regain some control, they got that Baron sneak, obviously. It didn't feel like enough because the team fights, you just had this Kennen who was such a massive factor and was overpowering. You got some beautiful flankers coming in from Marky, and I feel like it's an issue, right? The Gangplank clearly wasn't enough for an answer to it. Obviously, in the lane, we saw him getting solo killed, and it felt like, as you said, they either need to ban it away or think of a better option for it, or just pick it themselves.
What would be a better option instead of Gangplank?
I mean, I think if you're leaning towards topside, you can play something like Aurelia. You can play something that's going to look to actually punish the Kennen and make his life hell. But if you're just going to play Gangplank and you just poke each other with a parlay with some autos and trade back and forth, the Kennen is going to be completely fine with that.
Trouble, did you feel like Maxlore had too much of an influence in this game, that they didn't really attack him on Fnatic side?
I felt like playing something like the Zhao, especially that first assist with the first blood, helped a lot. The fact that you had the Twisted Fate at any point in time to back you up with that global ultimate, it was really good. I don't necessarily think that Maxlore made the game. I felt like Movistar riders as a whole realized exactly what they have to do. They used their flanks, like Ox said before. They used the Zhao as front line. I think that Venzer was like, it was like the cherry on top. If anyone was getting attacked, Venzer was just flying in to defend.
And it's an interesting one, because Movistar chose red side for their first game, where we usually see a lot of emphasis on the blue side, especially in this meta where we see the OP picks coming out. What is something you want to see next game, Ox, and what is something you absolutely not want to see in the draft anymore?
Something I want to see is better support matchup, because I think Alistar weaker in the early levels of the lane. Obviously, we saw a ton of support bans in that second rotation, which made things were a little bit more difficult. And in terms of, something I don't want to see you picking Gangplank and a Kennen, having a passive laning phase and just wait until he dominates you in team fights.
Where are the weak points of Movistar riders, in your opinion? Are there any weak points?
I felt like Movistar Riders went into the game and they were a little bit slow and a little bit undecisive, especially when they wanted to dive Pride in the top lane. Fnatic smelled the game, the gang from like literally 3 minutes back. They were able to even get their support up there before anything else happened. So I felt like Movistar Riders started a little bit slow. I didn't see a weak point at all. I feel like the one time that they lost something was the Baron. That was due to lack of vision. I don't think they're going to let this happen again. They're looking extremely strong.
Something you spoke about as well earlier in the day, Ox, is Fnatic usually doesn't really play around bot lane, which is pretty interesting because I feel like Bean is one of the strengths on that side.
Yeah, it feels like so far we've seen them lean so heavily towards the top side. It's been about setting Pride up, which is why it was a bit interesting here because they were playing a more defensive role to keep him safe, but it's a Gangplank, right? How are you massively benefiting from playing towards him? Often we see him on the weak side because he has such good wave clear and he scales so well. Even if he's put behind, he's still going to be relevant. I actually think if they put the pressure down bot, if we have a support who's going to have a better matchup, you punish Venzer, that's when we can see a win con.
I feel like G2 is really good at using the Tristana, particularly, of course, with Reckless. And what they do is that they will shove waves instantly really fast. And then they will take the jungler, they will bundle up with the jungler and just enter enemy territory. And because you have the push and you're the first one there, you can just sort of push out whoever is in the jungle and start to deprive him of a farm and experience. So I think maybe this is a strategy that they would like to use with the Tristana, but I agree on the better support matchup.
I mean, who will tell? Because we have to wait and see what will happen. We are actually middle of the best of 5 between Fnatic, Ryze, and Movistar, who is leading with 1 game. Can Fnatic take it back, or is it going to be a match point for Movistar?
He's gonna flash in and he steals the farm. How does that connect by entry?
Finish! As EU Masters Champions.